Hello everyone, I'm Tiffany and welcome to Digify. So I'll be discussing today Computer Science paper 9618, component 23, May-June 2022. So you can see the threshold right here. So A would be 43 marks, B would be 31 marks, C is 25 marks, D is 19 marks, and E is 14 marks. In my opinion, this paper is quite unique in a sense that there are some questions that are quite difficult if you do not know how to process your understanding. For example, the finding the error question and the number 8 question where there is an upward and downward arrow. But the remaining pseudocode questions are just you need a strong understanding of record data types. But other than that, let's just get started with the paper. Okay, so for question 1, it is a simple programming constructs question. So in programming constructs, there are 3 types. There's selection, repetition, and assignment. Selection means that you are choosing what path the program is going to take. For example, the program can choose either 1 or 2. So that is selection because you're choosing only one of the options. And for iteration, it is basically a loop. So whenever you see something that's happening multiple times, that is repetition. And for assignment, basically you're giving like a variable a value. Okay, so for this question, we have to choose whether it's selection, iteration, or assignment. Okay, for the first one, you can immediately tell that this is iteration because you can see a count controlled loop, the for loop, and it will loop 3 times. And you can also say that it is assignment because you're giving safe index, the array, in the position index, the value from get result. So you're giving it a value, you're making an assignment. Okay, for the second one, otherwise, output error 1202. So this question, it would be selection. So for this one, it will be a part of a case of statement, and then one of the options is otherwise. So you're making a choice, so it's a selection. So basically in case of, there would be like 1, 2 different options and then otherwise, which is not included in the options. So you're choosing the one that doesn't happen and therefore it is selection. For repeat until, this is iteration because you can tell there's a looping. For input my name, you are giving something a value, right? You're assigning a value to the variable my name. So it is assignment. And for this question, if mark is greater than if, the if means that you're making a selection. So you're either deciding mark is greater than 74 or it is not. So you're basically making a selection. And for grade equals to A, you're giving it a value. So it is assignment. For B, this question, you're basically trying to say, oh, is the output going to be true or false? Because they're using logic, they're using logical expression like or, and yeah, you can tell that this is going to be asking you whether it's true or false. So basically, let's see. True and is count greater than 99? No. And for and to produce a true, both of them needs to be true. So this is going to be false. Then for the second question, AAA is true and not BBB. B is false, so not false is true. And since both of them are true, this is going to be true. For the third one, count is less than or equal than 9, which is true because it is 99. And A or B. For an or to produce a true, either one of them needs to be true. So for true and true, this will be true. For this question, BBB is false, and count, which is greater than 50, which is true. So this is an and, so this is false. Or not AAA. Not AAA is wrong. I mean, it's false. So or, you need at least one. Both of them are false, so it's going to produce false. Then give an example of when a variable of type Boolean will be used. For this question, you can use any logical examples. So I'm just gonna say like, oh, you can make like in an exam, put a true or false question. True or false. And that would be accepted. So you can use examples in this question, like real life examples. You can also use non-real life examples like, oh, in a for loop or in a selection, you need to choose one of the values. You can also use the type Boolean for this question. Okay. For number 2, a program has been written to implement a website browser and maintenance is now required. One main type of maintenance is called perfective. Okay, so there are 3 types, I believe. There's also one more, but I don't think it's in the syllabus anymore, but I'm not sure. So type 1, it will be adaptive. Adaptive maintenance, basically, you're trying to add new features to the program. And then, so basically for an example, right? So I'm making a code, and the code is basically to find the sum of like a bunch of numbers. And then I want to add a new feature to find the average. That is adaptive maintenance. For the second type, there's also corrective. Corrective maintenance is to basically fix any bugs. Bugs is like error in the code found during the runtime that wasn't found when like you were first testing it. So basically, for example, in my previous case where I'm trying to find the sum of a bunch of numbers, is not giving the right result. So I'm gonna be fixing it with corrective maintenance to try and fix the problem. Okay, for number 3, a structure chart will be produced as a part of the development process. Describe the purpose of a structure chart. So basically, a structure chart, you're using it to plan your code, right? So you're basically, so for this question, you can use like to plan the sequence of the code and basically mention all of the programming constructs to plan the sequence, like the higher, if I can spell it right, hierarchy, and like blah blah blah. You can talk about like anything, like you're using it to make a selection, you're using it to find out what parameters you're using. So this one has a lot of answers, but you only need to mention 2 to get 2 marks. Okay, for this question, section 1 calls one of the other 3 modules. The module is called will be selected when the program runs. Draw the structure chart. Okay, so basically we were given like all the function headers and procedure headers up there. And to make it, we use boxes to represent the function or the parameter. So this one will be section 1 because it's going to be the main one that calls the other 3. So this one will be, okay, let's name this one sub 1 underscore A. And then there's going to be sub 1 underscore B, and also sub 1 underscore C. So you're supposed to link the main one to all the smaller modules. Okay, let's see from procedure sub 1A. This one has 2 parameters, the xt and pb. Since they're integer and string and not Boolean, you're supposed to use an a circle like this and a circle like this. So for this one, don't forget to label it xt and pb. Okay, for this one, sub 1b, it asks for one parameter only, ra, and it returns a boolean. So for ra, it will look like this and returns a boolean. So you need to fill it out and give an arrow like that. For sub 1c, it uses an integer and by reference as a string. So for SB, you use a normal arrow. And because it's by reference, that means that you're changing the actual value. You need to give it like this as A. Okay, and since it calls one of the 3 other modules, that means that it's only going to choose one every time, right? So it needs to make a selection. Oh, which one do I choose? Make a diamond shape to show that you're making a selection. Okay, so for this question, items in a factory are weighed automatically. The weight is stored as an integer value representing the weight. The valid date, the weight of each item, pass, and if it's fail, this is the range. And black box testing will be used and a test plan needs to be produced. So for black box testing, basically you're testing the program in a black box. So imagine that you're coding and then you need to test your code, but you don't know what the code looks like. So in order to test the program and find out how it works, you can give it different inputs and find out the outputs. So you can basically find the structure of the program. That is black box testing. Okay, in this question, you have to write additional tests for this function. So for this question, you can basically write like, if you want to take the easy route, because it doesn't mention that you need to write different tests, right? So you can like write normal, but I'll give you like different examples. So let's try abnormal, okay? Abnormal, and then like, I don't know, 777. This is way outside of the boundary, right? The upper bound is only maximum 155G. So it's going to return a fail because it's not in the range. Outside the range. Okay, so for another example, it could be extreme. That means that it's still accepted, but it's like nearing the boundary. So you can either choose 155 or 150. So like 150 or like 155. Both of them are going to be pass. Oops, sorry. And it's because they're within the range. For boundary, you need to choose either 155, 156, right? So you're testing what is accepted and what is not. So I could put 156 here and write fail because it's outside the range. Okay, so now we're doing a pseudocode question. Fun. Okay, we need to declare a record type of type employee. So make sure you remember this format. It's going to be type employee and then declare. The first one is employee number. So employee number and ... integer. Make sure you capitalize the data type or else you're gonna get it wrong. And declare name as string. Declare, sorry, it's gonna be very messy because I'm trying to write fast. Department. Okay, I'm sorry for the bad handwriting. String also. Why is it a string even though there's a number? It's because it's in quotation marks, and if there is a letter and not just a number, it's going to be a string. And okay, So you may be asking, okay, what about phone numbers? Sorry, this question just popped up in my head, like 08 da 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 da. Is it a string or an integer? So in this case, it's going to be a string because you don't need to do calculations with a phone number, right? You just need to know what the phone number is. So if you don't need to do calculations with it, just keep it as a string. Okay, guys? So carrying on, sorry. Declare born. Born is date. Okay, so when you're using date, right, in pseudocode, usually you use hashtags here, but they didn't use it here, so I'm not sure why they didn't, but most of the time they use hashtags. So don't forget to add that in your like other pseudocode codes, okay? And attendance, it has a decimal point, so it's real, not float. And type. Okay, 1D array containing 500 elements to store employee records. So you were given the data type, it is the record you literally just made in the previous question. So you can declare it like this. Declare staff as an array, and then you give it the lower bound and the upper bound of the index of type employee. Okay. Okay, so for here, there may be more records in the array than the employees in the company. In this case, some of the records of the array will be unused. Why is it good practice to indicate unused array elements? So basically, when you know it's being unused, when you're using linear search, for example, 3, 2, and then blank will be 0 and then 1. You can just check, oh, is this 0? Is this 0? Oh, this is 0. So you can find out and access it faster. So this is for faster access. And for this one, give one way of doing it. You can give a value that you're never gonna use. So it's either 1, -1, or like anything, -999, like anything that's valid that you're never gonna use. Okay, so the next question, basically we have to try to explain what's happening here. So if the final line being read is not a multiple of 3, the output will be not in order. And how do we fix this mess? So again, let's bring back our example. It's going to be XYZ, and then after that, you're going to put in A, which is the fourth one. What you can do is after you fill this all up, you move the one at index 2 to index 1. So this is going to be Y and X is going to be gone. And then you move Z to index 2. And then finally you put A in index 3. So you're going to have it in order. It's going to be ZYA. So the explanation is you're going to do a shuffle. So copy from the buffer 2 to buffer 1, and then you're gonna copy buffer 3 to buffer 2, and then add the last line to the index 3, or the next line to index 3. Okay, now it's a procedure question. 4 marks. Okay, so it will output employee number and the name of all the employees who have an attendance value of 9 or less. Okay, in any question, okay, in pseudocode, and they tell you to make a procedure or a function, the easiest mark you can get is to make a correct function header or procedure header, sorry. So this one will be procedure and then the name absentees. And we don't need to pass any parameters here. We're only accessing the array, and the array is already a global variable. So that's the only thing you need to access. You don't need anything more. So, and you don't need to return anything because it is not a function. The difference between function and procedure, you should know this. Procedure does not return a value back to the code. Function does return a value back to the code. Okay, and then just for good practice, okay, guys, my way of going into the exam and like declaring, because declaring is really important, it literally costs you a mark, I think. So here's my method. First of all, you need to think, okay, I'm definitely gonna use a loop, right? Because I need to access every single like index in the array. So I will need to declare index as an integer. And then for declaring, you should think of like a method that you are comfortable with, okay, when declaring. This is what I like to do. So for declaring, we need to see. So I need to check if it's less than 9, right? So I definitely need a real value to compare it with. So I'm just gonna say declare value as real. And in the exam, you don't know every variable unless you think it through really well. You can't think through every single variable very quickly, right? So in my case, I would not write this first. I would not write this first just in case there's like another one like number or example. So I would not write this first, and then I will skip like 1 or 2 lines. Depends on how confident I am, just in case you need to declare something else. Okay? So you should come up with your own test strategy. This is something that I personally use. So off topic again. When do we need to initialize values? For example, do I need to initialize index as 0? Do I need to initialize value as 0.00? The answer is it depends. So here's how to know. If you're doing like this, value equals to value plus something. Okay, notice how you're putting value here. You need to initialize, okay? If it's assigned to something else, you need to initialize, okay? If it's like value equals to 9, you do not need to initialize, okay? So that's the rule of thumb. If it's here, you initialize this, you write this. It's gonna cost you a mark. And if you can't see anything, so you're just assigning a value, you don't need it, okay? So that's the rule of thumb. So in this case, we don't need to, but okay, you can. Like, it doesn't lose you a mark, and I think it's safer to initialize it. So just to be safe and not do it later, let's just write it anyway. But I don't think in this question we need to, and I already did this past paper, so I know we don't need to because we're not doing any of that. So to access every single index, we need to make a for loop. Index 1, 2, 500. And then, okay, this is just an extra step. They literally mentioned that, some of the index in the array will be unused. Okay, so that means that we need to consider unused. In the answer key, they don't mention that, but to be safe and to show the examiners that you know what you're doing, I think it's better to check it anyway. So if staff is the array, use a square bracket for using array index dot, to call a specific variable in record type in an array, you need to use dot, and then you need to mention the field. Okay, so staff index dot employee, employee number, I think, number is not equals to 0, then so this will keep looping until, this will only run if it's not 0, so if it's not empty. And then you check, oh wait, you need to get the value first. So value equals to staff, okay, I'm too lazy to write this, employee dot number. Oh wait, not dot number, you're trying to find the value. Index index dot, which one is the real? Oh, attendance dot attendance. Okay, and then you check if value, because you're only trying to get the one that's 9 or less, right, is less than or equal than 90.00, if we have an attendance value of 9 or less, it then output, it's not a string, I'm sorry, staff index dot, you want the employee number, I'll give you the employee number and output staff index dot name. Okay, and don't forget to put your endifs. Wrong syntax is wrong syntax. Endif again. And next index. And then don't forget to end your procedures, guys. And procedure. For 4 marks, that's... they're kind of stingy with this one, but what can we do about it? Okay, another Sudoku question. This time for 6 marks. That means that the code is going to be longer? Maybe? Let's see. Okay, so is factorials. Okay, factorial of a number. And function factorial, and to be called with an integer number as a parameter. So they already tell you what is your parameter. They're being nice, so you can immediately know, oh, I need to pass num of type integer. And then calculate and return the factorial. Return the factorial of the number. So you need to return an integer too. Returns integer. Don't forget the S. It returns integer. Okay, so return -1 if the number is negative. Okay, so let's declare. Again, up to you what you want, like the method. I think first. Okay, for this question, what do I need? I need to output something that is the factorial, right? So let's declare fact as an integer. Oh, I don't know what else to declare. Okay, then skip a line or two. And then just come back and declare everything when you're done. Okay? So, for this question, do you need to initialize? Yes, the question is yes. I'll show you why later. Use one of the lines you skipped. Fact equals to 1. Because you're going to start with 1. Fact equals to 1. If number is greater than 0, because you'll return -1. If greater than 0, then because you're checking if it's a positive or a negative number, right? Then repeat. Why am I using a repeat? Because here's my plan, okay? It's good to have a scrap paper on the side during the exam so you can note down your thought process. How am I gonna do this factorial question? Here's how I think of it. Okay, so you put 5, right? 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Okay, so notice how it's counting down. It's decrementing by 1. So my plan is to multiply it by number, and then I'm gonna minus number by 1. Okay? So, repeat. Fact equals to fact times is using the star, fact times num. So the first one is going to be 1 times 5, right? And then num minus 1. So the next one, the second loop, is going to be 1 times 4, and then 1 times 3, and then 1 times 2, and then 1 times 1. Until, you're going to loop this until the number equals to 0. Okay? So as soon as it reaches 1 times 1, and then it's going to become 0, and then you're going to stop. That is how this code is going to work. And then, okay, now that we dealt with the main part of this code, what about the negative one? Okay, so we're going to use else. Else. That means that it's going to be less than 0, less than or equal to 0. Factorial of 0 equals to 1. Okay. Else, if num less than 0, then fact is equals to negative 1. Okay, teacher Tiffany, why are you not considering if it's 0? Because they said if it's 0, it's going to be 1. Because we wrote down fact is 1, right? And then the number is 0. In this loop, it's just not going to do anything because it says it will repeat until num equals to 0. And it's already 0. So fact is still going to stay 1. So you don't really need to write code for that. So you just need to return it, okay? Okay, I hope you understood that. So basically, it won't loop that part. It will stay 1, so the output will be 1 anyway. End if, don't forget to end if again. End if again. And you need to return. Return, not returns, okay? Return fact. So the returning is going to be negative 1, 1, or whatever the number you get from that is. And don't forget to end function. Next question. A procedure first 10 will output the factorial of the numbers 0 to 9. Okay, so we got a flowchart and basically we need to label it. Okay. For these kinds of flowchart questions, the syntax, well, from what I've learned, okay, you can either write it as like pseudocode, or you can use set, which is in the answer key. But according from my experience, you can write it in pseudocode. Depends on whatever you're comfortable with, okay? For A, set num to 0. Okay, what is the first thing you need to check? Okay. So it's counting up from 0 to 2, from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 sampai 9. Sorry, until 9, okay? 9 is the end point. So it's going to end if A is num greater than 9. Because you're stopping at 9, okay? So if it's 10, you stop already. You're not doing another round after 9. And then B is going to be yes. C is going to be no, it's not greater than 9, and you need to loop it again. This kind of box in a box is telling you that there's either a function or a procedure being used. What did they say? It will use the function from part A, which is factorial. Okay, so that means D is gonna, because it's a function, you need to assign it to a value. Factorial num. Okay, so E is a parallelogram. So it's either input or output. So you better output something here because you don't need to input anything. Output factorial. Just copy this factorial of comma num comma is comma fact. And f you're assigning something. That's what the box is for. Num plus 1. This question should be 3 marks for you. You just need to memorize what each of the shapes do. Okay. Finding errors. This kind of question, in my opinion, is not my favorite because I have a hard time finding it. Okay, state how the output might be incorrect. Let's take this line by line. This might take a while. I'm sorry, guys. So, straight off the bat, okay. Tiffany, this file, why is there a typo? And does it matter? Can I put that in? No, guys. In the teacher's, okay, I got a glimpse at the teacher's, guidance or something. The capitalization does not matter. You cannot say this is an error because it is, it is not important, okay? You can literally write this file or this file and it's the same exact thing. So it's not case sensitive, so you can't say it's an error. Remember this, it is the same thing. Okay, so I just wanted to point out one out. So you're reading this file line by line, okay? You're reading the file and then you're putting it in the buffer and then you're putting this line. Okay, line num is line num plus 1. Okay, so here's the file. 4, 5. Okay, so in the first loop, you're reading this line and then you're putting it in buffer. Okay, here's the buffer, okay? Buffer line num starts from 1. So you're putting x into number 1, okay? And then it line num plus 1. So it goes to number 2. Is line num equals to 4? No, it's at 2. So you skip this entire thing and you go all the way back up. Read the line of 2, pretending this is y. I put y at line num 2. So I'm putting it at y, which is, I'm putting y in number 2, okay? Then, is it equals to 4? No, because it's now pointing at 3. Okay, go all the way back up. This is going to be z. Read the next line, which is line 3. Okay, it's z. Then I'm going to put at z. Line num, this is line num, by the way, guys. Line num. And then you plus 1. So now it's pointing at line number 4. Is it 4? Yes, it is 4. So line num will become number 1. So you're changing whatever this one is now, okay? So let's pretend this is A. And you're changing this to A. And then basically you understand the gist, right? So when it's pointing at 5, it's gonna change this one to B, C, D, E, F, G, like that. Do you understand the problem? So, pretending we got this one, okay? This is line 4, this is line 2, and this is line 3. It's not in order, right, guys? It's not in order, and the output wants it to be in order. So, the sequence is wrong. Okay? The next question, basically we have to try to explain what's happening here. So, if the final line being read is not a multiple of 3, the output will be not in order. And how do we fix this mess? So again, let's bring back our example. It's going to be x, y, z, and then after that, you want to put in a, which is the fourth one. What you can do is after you fill this all up, you move the one at index 2 to index 1. So this is going to be y and x is going to be gone. And then you move z to index 2. And then finally you put a in index 3. So you're going to have it in order. It's going to be zya. So the explanation is you're going to do a shuffle. So copy from the buffer 2 to buffer 1, and then you're gonna copy buffer 3 to buffer 2, and then add the last line to the index 3, or the next line to index 3. So for B, state the condition that results in the correct output. So when is it going to be correct? We answered this before. It needs to be a multiple of 3. And then lines 20 to 30 can be replaced with a single pseudocode statement. So 22 to 23 is going to be this. Oh wait, does it say 20? 20 to 23. So here, this entire section. Okay, so the answer is going to be line num and equals to, assigned line num mod 3 plus 1. This is a really tricky question, so yeah, I'm going to be doing it step by step again. So imagine you got the XYZ, the buffer again, and then you want to put A, which is the fourth line, okay? So 4 divided by 3 is going to be 1, and then the remainder is 1, right? So that means this fourth line is going to go to index 1, which is basically what it's trying to do. So if it's like index 5, the remainder is going to be 2, so it's going to go here. 6, so it's going to go here. 7, it's going to go here. So you can test it out yourself, find the remainder, and then see which line it's going to go to. So for question 8, this is the program development lifecycle. So it's going to be analysis, design, coding, testing, and maintenance. But there's a bit of confusion here. Why is there an arrow going back up? And that's going to be asked later, right? So for now, just do what you usually do. So analysis, design, coding, testing, and maintenance. So yeah. So what is the meaning of the downward and upward arrow? So the downward arrow is pretty clear, right? So you're basically moving the result of the previous stage to the next stage. And then the upward arrow is the really weird one. So basically it's saying, let's give an example. I'm coding a website, and then I'm analyzing the problem, and then I'm designing the website. And then when I'm designing the website, I realize, oh, I don't have enough material, or I don't know enough to design the website yet. So I gotta go back and analyze the problem more before I can start designing it again. So basically this stage is that they failed this stage. They failed the current stage. And now you want to go back to the previous stage. So they're basically retrying that stage again, okay? So identify another model for the program development lifecycle. So this is a waterfall model. So there's gonna be like rapid application development, and then there's also iterative model. So yeah, you can answer any of those. Okay, so this is one of the long Sudoku questions. So basically, we need to create the module generate. So what does generate do? It's gonna generate a valid password. So a valid password is gonna be 14 characters long. It has 3 groups of 4 characters, and they're separated by hyphens. And they may include duplicated characters, but only in different groups. Okay, so it's gonna use random char and exists, and it's gonna return the password. You see the keyword returns, that means you immediately know it's gonna be a function. Function generate open bracket, close bracket, return string. We're not going to be using a parameter here because it doesn't say here that you're going to input something here, right? So you don't need a parameter here. And let's time to declare. You can use the tips I used for the previous question about how to declare without knowing what to declare first. But since I did this paper before, I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to use. So it's going to be password, which is going to be the full length password, and sector, which is going to be because it says you need three groups, so I'm just going to call them sectors: sector 1, sector 2, sector 3, and they're going to be a string. And then you're going to declare char, which is char. Basically each individual character is 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and then we're gonna declare index 1 and index 2. Why do I have 2 indexes here? I'll show you. So the first index, I'm gonna use it to represent 1, 2, and 3. So each of the groups, okay? And then for the tinier ones, like each individual character, I'm gonna use index 2. So first of all, because you need to add something to password, again, you can use the tips I said in the previous question. So you gotta make password here like this, an empty string. And then we're gonna use a for loop for index 1, and then there's 3 groups, so 1 2 3, and then we're gonna make sect also an empty string for index 2 1 2 3. And now let's generate each of the random characters. So we're gonna use a repeat loop here. So we're gonna check again and again, and we're gonna continue generating random characters and checking with the previous characters in that sector to check if it's the same. So for example, I'm gonna generate A O, and I'm gonna generate another character here. Is it the same with this one? Yes. Then I'm gonna generate until it's something different. So that's my plan. So generate. I'm gonna use repeat, and then char. Char is going to be random char bracket. This is the function here, and the explanation is here. Random char until exists the sector and then the char equals to false. Okay, and then we're gonna add the character we just generated into the sect. So sect and char. And then we're gonna use next index 2. And then you're gonna add the sector to the password. So password, and sect, and hyphen. Okay, do you realize the problem in this code? So basically, if you're adding a hyphen at the end, so this one hyphen, this one hyphen, this one hyphen, we got an extra hyphen at the back, right? So, but this is an easy fix. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna finish this loop first, index 1. And then we're gonna do this. So password equals left, and then password, comma 14. So in this case, you're just gonna get the first 14 characters and leave out the last hyphen. And of course, there are many different ways of doing this. As long as your logic is sound, you're gonna get the mark anyway. So you're gonna do return password, and okay, sorry, I just noticed an error here. This is gonna be password, and you're gonna end function. Okay, so all of this is gonna get you 7 marks. So yeah. Okay, this is the last pseudocode question. What are we making? Add password. What does add password do? It's gonna take 2 parameters as string, the domain name, and the password. Then it's gonna check it in the array secret and add it if it's not there. Then returns true, we got the keyword there, the domain name and the encrypted password to the array. So you're gonna add it, and otherwise just return false. So because we found the keyword there, we're gonna do function add password, open bracket, and then it says take 2 parameters, so we're just gonna make it name and password as string, and then returns boolean. Okay, so because I did this already, I know what the declarations are, but you can go back to the previous questions to figure out what method I use. So declare index integer, and declare added as boolean. So basically added is the thing, the variable you're gonna return back, okay? So first of all, we're gonna set the boolean added as false first. Added false. And then you're going to set the variable index as 1. Okay, so my code and the answer key code is a bit different, but I'm gonna teach you my method, okay? So the first thing you need to do is to check, is this domain name already in the array secret? So you're going to use the function find password, and then you're going to use name is from here, name equals to blank, because in here it says an empty string is returned if it's not found. Then we're going to start the code. While added equals to false, and index is less than or equal than 500, because 500 it's 500 rows. Then you're gonna start adding it to you're gonna start adding it into the array, right? So first of all, you need to check if it's empty first. This is something that you need to do for like every question when you're adding something to an array. If secret index comma 1 equals to it's empty, then secret index 1, you're going to put the website name. So you're gonna put the name. And then for secret index 2, you're going to add the password that's encrypt. So you're gonna use encrypt and then password. And then you're gonna put added as true. And then else. That means if it is not added, and then if it's if that line is already holding another value, then it's just gonna update the index. So it's just gonna go down. Index plus 1. So basically, the algorithm is gonna be like this. Is this one full? Yes? Okay, I'm just gonna go down. Is this one full? Oh, it's empty. Then you're gonna put it here, okay? And then we're gonna end if. And then end while. And then end if again. And then what you're gonna return is the Boolean value, which is added. End function. And for that code, you get 6 marks. Okay, so for this question, we're basically transferring each line from the array secret in a text file. Why are we gonna do this? Because in arrays, there's a problem where if you close the program or terminate the program, it's gonna be gone, okay? It's not permanent, so usually people save it in a text file so that it will still be there even if you turn off the computer, even if the program is terminated, okay? So how can a single line of text be used to store the domain name and the encrypted password? Okay, first you need to select a separator that will not be used in the domain name or the password. So for example, like maybe people will use dash, underscore, like exclamation mark, but something that people don't usually use is space, right? So you can use put an example space, but you don't need to write this, you'll still get the mark. And then after that, you're going to create a string, and then you're gonna make this the domain name, and then the separator, and then the encrypted password. And then you are going to append the file and add this line into the file. And yay, we're done. So I would love to hear your feedback from the audience on how our first past year paper discussion is. And if I made any mistakes, please leave them down in the comments or any suggestions how we can improve our past year paper discussions. Thank you so much for listening to our content.